and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. The United States and the European Union have agreed on a trade deal, which includes a 15% tariff rate for most goods from the EU. South Korean officials are also making last-minute efforts to reach an agreement, with the finance minister planning to travel to the U.S. this week. North Korea has commented on the Yi administration's inter-Korean policy for the first time, with the North Korean leader's powerful sister saying the regime is not interested in any proposal from Seoul and that they won't sit down for talks with South Korea. Seoul City saw the daytime temperature soaring up to 38 degrees Celsius over the weekend, the fourth highest ever for late July. The scorching heat is expected to continue today and throughout this week, with heat wave warnings in place across most parts of the country. With just a few days until the August deadline, the United States and the European Union have agreed on a trade deal, with a 15% tariff on most imports from the European bloc. A major part of the agreement includes the EU buying $750 billion worth of U.S. energy. Our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
The United States and the European Union avoided a major trade war as the two sides agreed on a 15% tariff on most EU goods going into the U.S. on Sunday. The framework trade agreement was announced by U.S. President Donald Trump and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen during their meeting at the U.S. leaders' luxurious golf course in Western Scotland.
We have stabilized on a single 15% tariff rate for the vast majority of EU exports. This rate applies across most sectors, including cars, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals. This 15% is a clear ceiling, so no stacking, all inclusive.
The deal also includes a 0-for-0 tariff rate for certain strategic products. Those goods include aircraft and aircraft parts and certain chemicals and generic drugs. However, no decision has been made on wine and spirits. Also, a major part of the trade deal is the European bloc agreeing to purchase $750 billion worth of energy from the U.S.
Is going to agree to purchase from the United States $750 billion worth of energy. $750 billion worth of energy. They are going to agree to invest into the United States $600 billion more than they're investing already. So they're investing.
The deal means the EU has now avoided Trump's initial proposal of 30% tariffs on goods from the EU. The U.S. has also struck deals with the UK, Japan, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Trump announced that 3 to 4 more countries could strike a deal with the U.S. in the coming days. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
But South Korea has yet to strike a deal, leaving the country only a few days to negotiate with the United States. Top government officials are already in Washington, with the Minister for Finance traveling to join them this week. Our Kim Do-yeon has more.
After a last-minute cancellation derailed his trip to the U.S. last week, Finance Minister Koo Yoon-cheol's new date for a one-on-one meeting with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is July 31st, the day before the U.S. tariffs pause ends. With the tariffs set to take effect the following day, this could be Seoul's last chance to strike a deal before the 25% duties kick in, as announced, along with other tariffs for specific items such as cars, steel, and chips. Adding pressure, Japan has already secured a 12.5% tariff on auto exports compared to a rate of 25% rate for other nations, giving its automakers a potential edge over Korean competitors. In response, Seoul is reportedly preparing a broad package of proposals, including deeper cooperation in strategic sectors like shipbuilding and semiconductors and significantly expanded investment commitments. One key bargaining chip, a possible boost to Korea's $100 billion plus investment plan aimed at matching Japan's earlier pledge of $550 billion in exchange for tariff concessions. The presidential office is also on full alert. President Lee Jae-myung is said to be watching the situation around the clock as the deadline approaches, closely monitoring the situation.
The president's message is to approach the negotiations with multiple factors in mind, considering the complex and evolving global landscape, and to aim for outcomes that could bring significant benefits to our country.
On Saturday, the top office convened its second emergency meeting in as many days, led by Policy Chief Kim Yong-bum and National Security Advisor Ri Sung-rak. With both the industry and trade ministers currently in the U.S., they joined virtually to brief on their latest meetings with U.S. counterparts. Shipbuilding again emerged as a key point of discussion, according to Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwan, reflecting Washington's continued interest in strategic manufacturing ties. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
So as we just heard, Korean officials are now preparing for what will likely be the last round of negotiations before the trade deadline set by U.S. President Donald Trump ends this week. For more on this, we're joined by Professor Hojun, Associate Professor of Economics at Seoul University. Professor Ho, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So South Korean officials were still unable to reach a deal after recent trade talks in Washington. What would you say is the biggest obstacle to an agreement?
The key point is whether it is possible to make investment in the United States to the extent that the U.S. desires. For example, like Japan decided to invest $50 billion in the United States and lower the mutual tariff rate by 10% point from 25% to 15%. Unfortunately, this is unlikely to be the case for Korea. Korea is in a difficult situation to guarantee investment on the scale of Japan. In fact, it is reported that Trump is demanding an investment from Korea of about $400 billion, but the $550 billion that Japan has decided to invest in the United States far exceed the South Korean government budget this year.
I see. And the talks on July 31st are expected to be Korea's last chance to negotiate with the Trump administration before the August deadline. How do you think the negotiations will play out?
As the negotiation deadline approaches, the United States is expected to increase pressure on Korea by intensifying its demands. President Trump has strongly expressed his determination to conclude trade negotiations with major trading partners by August 1st, causing tension for the South Korean government as they are pressed for time. The Korean government is reportedly demanding the maximum possible reduction in mutual tariff rates and item-specific tariffs, such as those on automobiles and steel, with an initial target of setting a mutual tariff rate of 15%, similar to Japan. I believe as the negotiations reach their final stage, Korea will present even larger concessions to the U.S. government.
I will have to see how that goes. And it seems South Korea is looking to use shipbuilding and semiconductors as leverage in the negotiations. Do you think the strategy will work?
I think so. The Trump administration has recognized China's rise in the shipbuilding industry as a key issue threatening national security. In this context, the United States has planned to revive its shipbuilding industry and strengthen its naval power through cooperation with the South Korean shipbuilding sector, which possesses the world's highest level of technology. Specifically, it is reported that the U.S. government has requested investment in the U.S. by Korean shipbuilding companies, the transfer of key technologies, and support for workforce development. In this regard, I think there are kind of many rooms for cooperation between these two countries.
Right, and the presidential office says agricultural products are now also on the table, despite earlier government claims to the contrary. Is there a possibility that livestock products such as beef imports could become part of the deal?
I think so. Currently, South Korea is the only country aside from Russia and Belarus that imposed age restrictions on U.S. beef. Initially, South Korea was hesitant to import U.S. beef over 30 months of age based on public health concern, but it appears that the government is shifting its stance and may include beef and certain other agricultural products in the negotiation items.
See, what happens if the two sides fail to reach an agreement before the August deadline? How might that affect Korean businesses and the broader economy, especially given Korea's dependence on the U.S. market?
If this negotiation fails, I think three layers of opportunity costs will accumulate. First is the ongoing burden of tariff already imposed on items such as steel and automobiles. Second is the blanket burden of a 25% reciprocal tariff. And finally, the third point is the additional high tariff on strategic industries like semiconductors and the structural costs associated with the reorganization of supply chains. To avoid this, we must wisely offer what we can concede.
I see. I guess we'll have to hope that the two sides do reach an agreement this week. All right, Professor Ha, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
The North Korean leader's powerful sister says the regime has no interest in talking with South Korea, showing no will for dialogue. She also says inviting Kim Jong-un to APEC 2025 Korea would be a foolish delusion. Our Choi Soo-young reports.
In its first official response to the Lee administration, North Korea says it has no interest in any policy or proposal by South Korea and sees no reason to sit down with Seoul for talks. On Monday, Yo Jong, the sister of the regime's leader Kim Jong-un, said through the North Korean Central News Agency that no matter how much the Lee Jae-myung government tries to act like a fellow Korean to draw our attention or gain international spotlight, we still see them as an enemy. She also said that state-to-state relations on the Korean peninsula are now permanent and strongly criticized the South for trying to pursue unification through absorption, using the Ministry of Unification as a front. Kim said that looking at around first 50 days of Lee's administration, it is no different from his predecessor in blindly following the South Korea and U.S. alliance, pursuing confrontation with the North. On the recent halting of loudspeaker broadcast by the South, Kim said it is a problem Seoul created on its own and that the end of the broadcast is merely a reversal of something that should not have been done in the first place. She added it does not merit any evaluation. Kim also warned that it would be a serious mistake for Seoul to think that a few sentimental words could undo the extreme confrontation it had previously created. Regarding speculation that the North leader Kim Jong-un might be invited to the APEC 2025 Korea, she dismissed it as a foolish delusion. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
The first direct passenger flight between Moscow and Pyongyang in around 3 decades has taken off. On Sunday at 7:25 p.m. Moscow time, a Pyongyang-bound flight operated by Russian Nordwind Airlines departed from Moscow's Sheremetyevo Airport. The flight carries about 400 passengers and takes around 8 hours. Tickets cost about 45,000 rubles, roughly $560. Until now, the only direct flight between Russia and North Korea was the Vladivostok-Pyongyang route. Since last year's Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty, Russia and the North have expanded transport cooperation. Russia is also considering a new direct route to Wonsan on North Korea's east coast. South Korea's Prime Minister Kim Min-seok expressed his gratitude for the sacrifices of Korean War veterans on the occasion of the UN Forces Participation Day. At a commemoration ceremony held in Goyang, Gyeongju Province on Sunday, Kim noted that over 40,000 soldiers died and more than 100,000 were wounded, defending South Korea's freedom and peace. He stressed that South Korea will never forget the sacrifices made. The Prime Minister also pledged continued support for the descendants of Korean War veterans, announcing plans to expand scholarship and exchange programs. With less than 100 days left until the 2025 APEC economic leaders meeting, the host city Gyeongju is holding a set of cultural events that allow visitors to get to know the city through Korean modern and contemporary art. Our An Sung-jin has this report.
A collection of four of the greatest. Kim Hong-gi, Park Soo-gun, Lee Jung-sop, and Jang Wook-jin are artists who represent Korean contemporary art, and works of all four can be seen together at Gyeongju Arts Center. In celebration of the 2025 APEC Economic Leaders Meeting taking place in Gyeongju this fall, the exhibition, a collaboration between MMCA and Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power, puts the spotlight on Korean art. These four leading figures of modern and contemporary art reflect the hardships of their era as well as Korea's tradition and nature, which they show through their own unique artistic style. Kim Hong-gi is known as the pioneer of Korean abstract art through his notable pieces, including mountains. His signature style of all-over dot paintings is often seen on canvases filled with blue dots. Park Soo-gun also had his own style in portraying human goodness with layers of oil paint, as seen with his painting Under the Tree. And just like Park, who illustrated the hardships of ordinary people in post-war Korea, Lee Jung-sop expressed his hardships and emotions, such as deep longing for his family, using silver foil paintings like in Family. And like all other artists, Jang Wook-jin also focused on the everyday aspects of life that are reflected on his canvases through simple yet clear depictions, as seen in Village.
I got to see all the artists in one spot, and as someone who's interested in art, I had to see the artworks up close. Pieces from artist Kim Hwang-gi are not so easily seen, and to see the change throughout his work was moving.
Through the special exhibition with all four artists, visitors can see the essence of Korean beauty. And the Gyeongju Foundation for Arts and Culture notes that more such events in accordance with the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting will take place to boost the city.
Holding such a large-scale exhibition means a lot. Not only will it contribute to the vitalization of regional culture and art, but by hosting these exhibitions outside of Seoul and the capital area, allow local residents to explore these cultural events and boost their pride.
This exhibition runs till October, so for those interested in exploring Korean contemporary and modern art, visit the historical city of Gyeongju. An Sung-jin, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
Now let's take a look at some stories from around the world with our Ji. Good morning, Ji.
Good morning, Eun-ji.
So, Ji, let's start in the Middle East, where Israel has announced a pause in military operations in 3 areas. Tell us more.
Right. The Israeli military has announced a daily pause in military activity in 3 densely populated areas of Gaza to ease the ongoing humanitarian crisis. On Sunday, the Israel Defense Forces declared a tactical pause in fighting from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. local time daily until further notice in Gaza City, Deir al-Balah, and al-Mawasi while launching airdropped aid. To facilitate aid delivery, Israel has also designated secure corridors for UN and humanitarian convoys, which will be in place permanently between 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. More than 100 truckloads of food, medicine, and supplies were dispatched toward southern Gaza. Meanwhile, Jordan and the UAE also airdropped about 25 tons of flour, sugar, and canned goods into the enclave. The military pause aims to increase the scale of humanitarian aid amidst warnings of mass starvation. However, aid groups say that only under 8% of World Food Program trucks have successfully distributed supplies due to delays and theft, and point out that airdrops are inefficient and sometimes dangerous. The leaders of Thailand and Cambodia agreed to meet in Malaysia for talks after their deadly border conflict continued for a 4th day. The talks are scheduled to begin at 3 p.m. local time on Monday in Kuala Lumpur. U.S. President Donald Trump publicly urged both nations to agree to an immediate ceasefire on Sunday, warning that ongoing trade negotiations would be suspended unless hostilities end. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, currently chairing the Association of Southeast Asian Nations regional bloc, offered to host peace talks for both parties. Thai Acting Prime Minister Phumtham Wechayachai and Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet are expected to attend the talks. Over 30 people have died in the worst fighting between the two countries in over a decade, while more than 200,000 people have been displaced. A passenger train derailed in southern Germany on Sunday, killing at least 3 people and seriously injuring others. Around 100 people were aboard the train when 2 carriages came off the rails at 6:10 p.m. local time in a wooded area near the town of Riedlingen in the southwest of the country. Authorities are examining whether strong winds that swept the region shortly before the incident contributed to the derailment. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz expressed grief on his social media, saying, "We mourn the victims." In the UK, a pair of mixed breed dogs and their human guardians made headlines at the Dog Masters Festival on Sunday, held at a beach in Dorset. 2 teams broke a Guinness World Record with Matt Jenkins and his dog Gigi alongside Ben Gray and Boo, breaking the 50-meter paddleboard sprint record in a time of 32 seconds. The festival, hosted as part of the UK Dog Surfing Championships, featured paddleboarding, surfing displays, and world record attempts. Another World Dog Surfing Championships is set to take place in the San Francisco Bay Area on August 2nd.
It's another sizzling start to the day. The extreme heat wave is showing no signs of letting up. Yesterday's Seoul soared to a sweltering 38 degrees Celsius. That's the 4th highest ever for late July. And today is just as hot, if not hotter. Heat wave warnings remain in place across much of the country, so please try to stay indoors and avoid any unnecessary outdoor activities. And don't forget, UV levels will be very strong nationwide, so don't skip the sunscreen and take frequent breaks in the shade if you're outside. Meanwhile, later this afternoon, we could see brief showers in southern Gyeonggi-do, Chungcheong-do, and Jeollabuk-do provinces with up to 30 millimeters in the forecast. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 37 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon, Gyeongju, Gwangju topping out at 35 degrees. Looking ahead, tomorrow and the rest of the week will bring more of the same. Highs over 35 degrees Celsius and tropical nights continuing. So please stay safe and take care in this extreme heat.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.